Hey, good morning, everybody. Pardon my voice a little bit, maybe froggy a little bit, but we'll get through it together. Thank you. You know, piggy banks are an amazing instrument, aren't they? Our parents bought us one when we were kids, and their whole goal was to teach us the importance of how to use our money, how to spend our money, basic money management. So we didn't just get money and spend it. My dad would always tell me, you can keep it in your pocket longer than 5 seconds. And now as adults, we learn lessons from the piggy bank, and we apply them because some of the same lessons that we learned about the piggy bank when we were children apply to us as adults. It's just that it gets more complex. And we have many different piggy banks, right? Instead of having a one physical piggy bank, we have a savings piggy bank, a checking piggy bank, a debit piggy bank, a CD piggy bank, that's a certificate of deposit, an IRA, 401k, a 403b, so many different piggy banks. So it's more complex, but the principles nonetheless are the same. So last week we began this series by if you want to think of it, last week we began the series by how to establish a good offensive plan for the piggy bank. Offense, so in other words, how you can jam the piggy bank with lots of stuff. So we talked about the importance biblically of putting biblical earning power into your piggy bank. And we talked about also the biblical wisdom of savings. And then we talked about how remembering that ultimately God owns our piggy bank. Just like our parents bought us our piggy banks, God owns our piggy bank. And that's offensive. In other words, that's how you put money in. Today, we're going to look at the defensive side of piggy banks, and that is how do we carefully take money out? How do we carefully take money out? And we're going to look at three more important principles so that we take money out biblically. So take out your notes, and we're going to look at three practices to protect your piggy bank from malnutrition. Malnutrition. Starved piggy bank. A skinny piggy bank makes no sense, does it? I mean, nobody's looking for a skinny piggy bank. So before I share them, let me ask you a question. Think back. I want you to think back now. Think back to the biggest financial challenge you ever faced in your life, when things got the worst they've ever been in your life financially. Think about it. All right, you got it? What was the root cause of that challenge? What were the contributing factors that got you there? You know what I think? I think one of the three things we talk about today, if not more, if not two, if not all three, are the reason why. What I'm about to talk about, again, like I said last week, it's not rocket science. Money is not rocket science. There is wisdom to it. There's a lot to learn about money. It's not rocket science, but what I know about money is money requires discipline, informed discipline. So I'm confident that if you think about the worst times in your life financially, one of these things happened. And if you think about the best times in your life financially, it's because you were doing these three things well. So here's the first. The first practice to protect your piggy from malnutrition is to take from piggy in measured amounts. I know when we were kids, it was just always tempting to spend money. Like when I was a kid, now this is how old I am. Like when I was a kid, the thing that all my friends had that I wanted so bad, like in 5th and 6th grade, was a mini bike. A mini bike. Do they have mini bikes anymore? I don't know. How many ever wanted a mini bike? I so wanted a mini bike. I so wanted one. It's just a little, it's like a motorcycle. It's about this tall, and I wanted a mini bike so bad I would have saved up and spent for it like crazy. And so a lot of times what happens is the kids go like an Xbox and this and that, and I want to buy that, and I want to save up for it and spend all my money. When the saving up for it's good, you learn discipline, but then spending it all and having nothing left is a problem. But instead of reaching inside and shaking all the money out of your piggy bank, maybe the better thing to do is to take it out in small, measured amounts. And small, measured amounts is basically the principle that I'm going to talk to you about, and the principle of budgets, the benefits of budgeting. Here's the first benefit of budgeting. Budgeting helps you accumulate more money. You go, no, how does budgeting help you accumulate more money? Budgeting helps you know money, the slots, hang tight with me. All the research shows that when you set up and live by a budget, you will spend less. When you set up and have a budget, you'll spend less. Not only that, you'll spend more wisely. Not only that, you'll avoid spending on foolish purchases. Notice Proverbs 21:5. It says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. So the plans of the, what's a plan? What's a budget? A budget is a financial plan. The plans of the diligent, so this is a general principle. Planning is powerful. But when we apply it to finances, the plans of the diligent, a budget, lead to what? Profit. Why? Because you've determined ahead of time, without the impulse of emotion and other triggers, you determine ahead of time how your money will be spent. And then the diligent is that you work your budget. The budget of the diligent working your budget lead to profit. As surely as haste, you don't have a plan, you just go, yeah, I want the mini bike, I want this, and you just, the Xbox, and then it leads to poverty. Budgeting is one of the most important basic disciplines to get all your income assigned properly and spent wisely. And Financial Peace, the class that we're promoting, it's going to begin on February 2nd. You can find out more in the atrium, and you can find out more at LCC Info. Will help you determine a budget plan. Here's what I will say about budgeting. The biggest problem people have with budgeting is they think there's only one way to do it. Oh, I tried this budget, I watched this video, and I don't want to do it. I'm telling you right now, there are a couple things. There's lots of ways to budget. And I'll tell you this, if you don't find a budget plan you like, you won't do it. Guarantee you won't do it. Because you're like, I'm not trying to do all that. I got to go to the computer every day. You're not doing that. So I'll tell you the simplest plan. I'll tell you my plan. I was going to get out the whiteboard and show you my artistic prowess and everything. I'm not going to do all that. Here's how I do it, honest to goodness. I get a piece of paper. First line, what's my checking balance? And we get paid every 2 weeks here at Lakeshore. So every 2 weeks I put, that's my checking balance, that's what I get paid, that's what I have in checking. And then I summarize every bill in that 2-week period. So I've got garbage that month. I pay it annually because I'd rather pay the whole year and save money than pay monthly. And that's all part of not paying debt. And then this month I've got this or that. And then I see my balance. Then I have my next block. There's my balance, that's my income. And all you're doing is you're forecasting when your spending comes. So like for us and our family, January and February are tough. January, we pay our garbage bill, we pay all our bills up front. Escaping me. Just different things come up. And then February, our quarterly. So I'm self-employed for Social Security purposes. I have to pay quarterly estimated taxes. I do that in January. February 10th, you got to, tape right leg here. You got to pay your taxes to town and county. So you have all that. And what you're doing is you're forecasting when your pinch points are, how much you need each period. It's a very simple approach, but find a budget plan that works for you. Not everybody's like David in the Old Testament. You can't wear Saul's armor. You can't wear somebody else's armor. Use a budget plan. And if you press me enough, I'll do a little workshop on how to budget. It's so simple, but you got to use a plan that you like. Second thing about budgeting I know is that budgeting lets you know where your money's going. I know a lot of people like to tell people where to go. Here's something you can tell where to go, your money, and it's biblical. When you budget and allocate what you have to spend all of your money on bills and what you pay for, you know exactly what you have left over for other things. Ultra discretionary spending like vacations or special purchases or furniture or going out for dinner or sporting events and everything else. Look at Proverbs 27:23-24. It says, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. You go, oh, great, that really applies to me. Well, knowing the condition of your flocks and herds is simply the idea, know flocks and herds were your assets. Know the condition of your assets. We would say, instead of know the condition of your flocks and herds, today we'd say by application, know the condition of your stocks and bonds. Know them. Know where you're at. Why? For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. What's the proverb writer saying there? He's saying, don't count on your money always being there. Oh, you know what, Vince, I got a lot of money in the market. Yeah, I'm going to repeat it. It may not last. And a crown is not secure for all generations. You may reign financially one day, but you have to know the condition of your stocks and bonds all the time. And you can't just go, well, my financial advisor takes care of it, right? And my wife's telling me about the special, Bernie Madoff. What if your financial advisor is freaking Bernie Madoff? So you got to know it. Look, it's like what President Reagan said. Financial advisor, great. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. Budgeting helps you know the condition of your finances, and people get into big trouble when they go on nice vacations, make a big purchase, and they don't have any money left over because they did not budget properly. Which leads to the third key aspect of budgeting. Budgeting guides you towards sound spending. Budgeting will help you make sound spending decisions. If you work your budget, work it, you'll rarely make poor financial decisions. On the other hand, people go off a cliff financially when they just go, oh, I'll work out. You ever see people like this? Oh, I don't know. Do you have that money? Is it budgeted? Oh, I'll work out. It's just this whole fuzzy, vague justification for spending. Look at Proverbs 14:15. It says, a simple man believes anything, but a prudent man gives thought, that's a budget, to his steps. Some people think budgets are restrictive and burdening. I used to think that. It's like a handcuff. I can't. Here's the truth. Budgets are the most freeing thing you can establish in your life. What's the difference between a puddle and a river? What's the difference between a puddle and a river? A puddle just sits there. It has no boundaries. And it does nothing. It's useless, right? But what's a river? It's got boundaries and it channels its power. That's what a budget is. A budget is a boundary that channels the power of your finances. And yes, is a budget restrictive? In a certain sense, it is restrictive, but it's restrictively freeing. It's sort of like scripture. When God says, don't do that, don't do that. Don't engage in that practice. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, God's keeping me from stuff. Right, he's keeping you from stuff that's going to harm you. Some of the best things you could ever do are the things you don't do. And that lets you look forward to the reward of following a budget. Because if you don't follow a budget, Jesus says this is what's going to happen. He says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it? What's that? It's a budget. Jesus says, why would you build something if you don't know that you have the money for the cost for it? For if he lays the foundation, in other words, he starts the building project, but is not able to finish it, everyone will see it and what? Ridicule him. So it's important that you know how to spend your money. Now, before I leave this first point, let me talk about what experts say you should use as percentage of income. So think of your money. Your money comes in. There's 100% of your income. What percentage of your income should go to assigned budget categories? This is the best I can find what experts say. So if you want, you could write this down. It's not in your notes. For your household, that is your mortgage, your electricity, your upkeep, your gas for your mower, everything. Your household budget should be 30 to 38% of your income. 30 to 38%. How about food? 12 to 16%. How about medical? Insurance and life insurance, health insurance, medical insurance, any kind of insurance including medical. 12 to 15%. How about clothes and personal effects? 3 to 4%. How about giving and savings? Well, if you're not a Christian, I guess 10%, right? You should try to save 10% for your time. If you're a Christian, 20%. You should give 10% to God and 10% to your savings. How about entertainment and vacation and Disneyland and everything else? Whatever's left. The problem is people start spending for Disneyland and vacation and everything else, and they don't know what's left. So it's so important to see how budgeting works. It is freeing. Budgeting is freeing. It is a discipline. I was at a restaurant the other day. I knew the whole restaurant. Unbelievable. I went to the first booth. I knew this person. I went to the next booth. I knew that person. Went to the next booth. Knew that person. And I saw our police chief, Chief Wood, here in the town of Greece, and I said hi to him, and he was with our former district attorney, which he remembered me. I was very surprised. And we were talking about wrestling. You know, it's been a few weeks since I talked about wrestling, so I got to throw it in there. And Chief Wood was talking about some guys that on my team from Gates when Gates was a good program, and a strong program. It's a good program now, but it's not as strong. And Chief Wood was like, wrestling teaches you so much about discipline. And I said, Chief, after Jesus Christ, wrestling taught me more about discipline than anything else. The discipline of going to practice, the discipline of losing weight, the discipline of focusing on your opponent, the discipline of learning moves to beat your opponent. And that's what budgeting is. It's discipline. But it's discipline channeled in a good way. And so many people budget like a puddle. Budget like a river. And if you don't have a good budget plan today, get one. Just go on the internet, go on Google, the source of all truth, right? And find a plan that you like. Because if you don't like the budget plan, you're not going to do it. Second principle to protect the piggy bank carefully is this. Keep Piggy from trendy crash diets. Now, I tell you, I'm not trying to call out names here, but you ever see these things where Nutri-Slim, Ultra Slim, diet this, watch your weight, and everything, all these things, right? And you see these same people, right? And they got skinny, and then they gained weight, and then they got skinny again, and it's yo-yo dieting. And most people say fad dieting doesn't work. If it isn't a permanent lifestyle, it's not going to work. And there's so many people that have trendy spending habits. They just crash spend. Listen to some of this data on debt in the United States. The average U.S. household holds about $154,000 worth of debt. The average person now this is for people that have a student loan. The average student loan is somewhere between $38,000 and $58,000. The average auto loan between $23,000 and $29,000. This is the worst right here. The average credit card debt in America, what is it? $6,500. That's not the debt you have right now that you plan to pay off. This is the debt that is outstanding beyond the pay period. $6,500 of debt. You're paying 27% interest on that. Total household debt in America, Q3 of 2025, $18.6 trillion. And listen to this, this is the worst of all, 22 to 25% of Americans are considered underwater financially. What does that mean? 22 to 25% of Americans are either in some debt, or their debt is greater than their assets. So you own a car that you owe $23,000 on, and the car's worth $15,000. You're underwater. And there's so many people in America that just, because of debt, are underwater. And you go, well, we'll make it. What if a recession hits? What if you have more problems? It's sad that so many people in our country, and I'm telling you, it's sneaky. So many people in our country simply accept debt as acceptable. Well, that's just the way it is. That's the way it is. Well, that's the way it is for a lot of Americans. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wise. Don't let that be you. So let's look at the dangers of debt. The first thing is, and I worked this one like a dog on a bone. I had to change every word, and so I try to get every word right, and I'll explain every word. Debt should be avoided at almost all costs. Almost all costs. Let's start with the debt we should always have. You know, there's a good debt you should always have. Look at Romans 13:8. Paul says, let no debt remain outstanding. So let's stop right there. Paul says, don't owe anybody anything financially or any other way, except the continuing debt to love one another. You know that you owe people love? You owe people love. You go, why should I love everybody? Why should I love the guy that doesn't treat me right? Why should I love the woman who is always snarky to me? Why? Because God loved you. Because God loved you. Jesus Christ shed his blood for you. He loves you. And because Jesus Christ loves you, we love others. We love, 1 John 4 says, we love because God first loved us. You owe people love. Everybody. And it's so important. And we know that God's love for us is unconditional. Romans 8 says nothing will separate us from the love of God and Jesus Christ. Nothing. So you owe people love. You should always owe people love. That should be an open tab. Beyond that, though, be careful. Look at Proverbs 3:27-28. Don't withhold payment of your debts. Don't say some other time if you can pay now. So debt comes from simply paying later, something you should either pay for now or something you shouldn't have bought at all. So I want you to think, last week we talked about savings, this week we talked about debt. Savings and debt are mortal enemies. They're the antithesis of each other. Savings leads to protection. Debt leads to vulnerability. Savings can earn interest. Debt will cost you interest. I like interest coming in. I can't stand interest going out. Savings grows money. Debt shrinks money. So every time you go into debt, you not only pay more for that item, right? If you bought something that cost $100 and then you didn't pay off your credit card, that thing might have cost you $175 by the time it's all over. And so not only does debt make something cost more, it deprives you from having savings that would help you save more. So you're getting killed on both sides. Does that make sense? You're getting killed by paying more money for something, and you're getting killed by not earning interest on the money you would have saved if you not bought that thing that you shouldn't have bought. Now, with that being said, there are times to go into that. My wife and I have arguments all the time about this little subject. Not major, but my wife's like, we should pay off our mortgage, not have that. I go, honey, the mortgage is 3.5%. We're earning more than that. But I think, I love you, honey. I think there are strategic times to go into debt. I think I need a new voice too, by the way. Let me give you strategic times to go into debt. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying you can do this at any level. You still want to be wise about it. First strategic reason to go into debt is a mortgage. I think a mortgage is a smart debt. Why? Because if you rent, all you're doing is you're just flushing it down the toilet. If you pay interest on a mortgage, at least you're building asset in a home. And imagine if you bought a home before 2020, right before COVID. Look at what housing prices have done since 2020. It was back in the day, like I remember back in the day when I was a kid, housing prices were going up crazy like that. But again, just don't get overextended. Second, reasonable debt. And this is what I want to be careful about, school loans. Now here's the thing, if you're gonna go to school for basket weaving and pottery or some ridiculous thing, that's a waste. You make sure that if you go into debt for a school loan, it's for a program that's going to hire you, that's gonna pay well, and you can pay it back in a few years. Right? If you invest in a career that's gonna pay well, that's a debt worth paying. Here's a third one, and this is a maybe. A car. But here's the thing, why not save up for a car? Why not save money so that you know when your car's getting old, you're ready to buy a new one? But get a car. And here's the thing, don't buy a new car unless you're an old person like me. The first new car I ever bought in my life, I was 55 years old. Cars are the worst, especially here. right? I mean, you drive it off the lot, it's got rust because it's Rochester. And so buy a car that's 2 years old. You know that a car that's 2 years old loses about 30% of its value, and yet it's still in its prime. So you don't have to buy a new car. I mean, if you got the money to do it, God bless you. Good, go. And then shoot for the zero financing. Negotiate it. Try to get a zero financing thing. And there might be some other things, but just be really, really, really careful. If you get into a debt pit, though, and you fall into it and you go, man, I'm stuck, I'm in the debt pit. You got to climb your way out of it very, very, very fast. Don't ignore it. I know so many people that have gone into debt and they just stick their head in the sand. They pretend they don't have a debt problem. And the calls come in and they don't answer them. You know, where's my money? Where's my money? And the letters come in and they don't respond. Debt does not go away. And there are a lot of strategies. When it comes to money, there are a lot of strategies. Here's what I believe. You go, I'm in debt, what do I do? First thing I would do. Who do I owe? I'd get a list. I owe 5 people. I owe this. I'd list all of them. Number 2, how much do I owe them? I'd list all of them. Number 3, what's the interest I'm paying on each? Number 4, pay off the highest interest joker. Now, some people say, pay off the little guy, because then that builds your confidence. You pay off the little debt and you go, yeah, I did it. 1 down, 4 to go. Either way, but just start paying it off. Another thing, consolidate your debt. Be careful of these companies now. These guys that, we'll consolidate your debt. And be careful. Another thing, negotiate with your debtor. Ask for help. But look, it probably took you months and years to get into debt. It's not going to take you hours to get out of it. So, and then finally pray. Just repent. Say, God, I shouldn't have spent that money. Forgive me. And I'll try not to never do it again. Please, by your grace, help me have favor with my debtors. Which leads to a second thing. And this is a tough one. This is a heart point. Debt is usually driven by our unhealthy ambitions. Not always, but 99% of the time, the root cause of debt is we have unhealthy desire. We want stuff we shouldn't. Look at Proverbs 11:6. It says, the righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the unfaithful are trapped by what? Evil desires. So often when we're in debt, it's because we desired stuff we shouldn't have desired, or we desired something bigger than we should have. We spent like we shouldn't have. We bought what we shouldn't have. We bought too big or something. And the truth is that debt is a heart problem. It really is. I hate to say that, and I don't want to be mean. You know us. We're not here to judge anybody. We're not here to put anybody down. But I don't think we do any favors if we don't tell the truth. Debt is a heart problem. It's a heart problem. Here's a couple scriptures on that. It may be a heart problem of status. I want to impress the Joneses. I don't know who are the Joneses, by the way. I don't know. I want to impress the Joneses. I want to impress the Joneses. I want to impress look at this one. One man pretends to be rich and yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor and yet has great wealth. So you go, well, I want to buy all this stuff. I want to be all bougie, drip. Look at my drip. I don't know what drip is. It's clothing or jewelry. I don't know. Some young person correct me after the service. Look at my drip. I got it all together. I got this. Look at the tag and everything. And yet you want to do that to look like you're rich, and the rich aren't doing that to look like they're rich. We keep wanting to press the Joneses, but the Joneses just refinanced too. Stop trying to pretend you're somebody you don't really care to be. Here's another unhealthy ambition. Proverbs 21:17. Indulging in luxuries, wine, and food will never make you wealthy. Indulging is the key word. You buy things that are well above your ability to pay for. Too big a house. Eating out all the time. By the way, I'm telling you right now, one of the sneaky causes of financial problems is eating out all the time. Yeah, okay, if you buy a Happy Meal at a restaurant or whatever, maybe, but eating out, it's a big. Here's one more. Look at Proverbs 23:4. Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Have the wisdom to what? Show restraint. Debt is about discipline. Our world says, if you want something, go get it. And I'm all for that, for goals, life goals and everything. But God says, not everything you think you want will satisfy you in the long run. So earning is good, but earning's not God. And then the third thing I'd say about debt eventually leads to personal enslavement. And this is the result. Look at what it says. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor, the borrower slave to the lender. When you owe somebody money, you are their slave. It adds a whole new meaning to MasterCard. You're enslaved to working more than you should to pay off the debt. You're enslaved to sleeping less than you should because you got to pay off the debt. You're enslaved to paying more than you should. You're enslaved to relaxing less because you got to work more. So you miss date nights with your sweetie. And you can't make the kids' events because you got to work. And you don't go to church. And you don't read the Bible. See what I mean? It's like you think, oh, debt, well, it's a financial thing. It's a hard thing. It's a spiritual thing. It really is. Debt is tragic. Don't get into it. If you get into it, get out of it quick. The third practice, and this will be short, to protect your piggy from malnutrition is that regardless of your piggy size, and this is big, this is a hard thing too, be content. Learn the power of priorities. Our number one goal in life should be to be content. What do most of us think when it comes to contentment? Well, I'll be content tomorrow. I'll be content when that. I'll be content when this happens. I'll be content there. I'll be content later. Be content right now. You go, how can I be content right now? I'm in debt. I got this. I got that. I got that. Be content right now. You know how you can be content right now? When Jesus Christ is your source of contentment. When Jesus Christ is everything in your life. If he's really everything in your life, there's nothing else to worry about. You believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is everything, and then you live it. And when you can say this with all of your heart, you're content. You know what it is? Jesus, you're enough. Jesus, you're enough. Jesus, you're enough. When you can say that with your mind and also with your heart, you're content. Look at 1 Timothy 6:6-7. But godliness with contentment is a great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we could take nothing out of it. And if you read the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon talks about the folly of getting rich. And one of the things he says is, he goes, what are you going to do with your money? You can't take it with you, right? And you leave it behind to people who may not appreciate it. But you can't take your money to heaven. But you know what you can take to heaven? Your godliness, your love for Jesus. You know why? Because when you take that to heaven, Jesus is going to reward you for it. So Hebrews 13:5 says this, keep your lives free from the love of money. That's what's going to get you in trouble, loving money. And be content with what you have. See, stop saying, well, I'll be content tomorrow. I'll be content when. I'll be content if. And all these conditional clauses, be content right now. How? Jesus is everything. How? Jesus, you're enough. Jesus, you're enough. Be content with what you have. Why? Because God has said, never will I leave you and never will I forsake you. And when I know Jesus is with me, I can be content. And if you're a Christian, Jesus is with you. The challenge for us as Christians, if you are a Christian, is that you have to remember that he's with you. But to the point earlier, be free from the love of money. I heard somebody say this, I love it. Love God and use things. Don't love things and use God. God is your source, not your money. And then one last scripture before we wrap up. Proverbs 15:17. Better a meal of vegetables where there is love. This is not vegan dieting tips or anything, right? Better a meal of vegetables where there is love. In other words, a low-cost, affordable meal than a fattened calf with hatred. In other words, better to eat celery and carrots and have love than to have a big juicy steak with people you can't stand. Jim Carrey said this, I thought it was so good. He said, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they've ever dreamed of so they can see that this is not the answer to life. And he's so true. So last week we talked about the good offensive tactics and savings and earning. And now today we talked about the defensive tactics, budget and debt. Let's bow our heads. And I just want to ask you, as you think about your money, do you take from your piggy bank money in measured amounts? Do you have a budget? I'm telling you right now, the best financial people have a budget. Get a budget. There's no one way to do it. There's no 10 ways to do it. Just get a budget. Make a budget. And here's the thing, it's got to be written down, either written down or on a computer. Have a budget. Second, are you keeping Piggy from the crash diet? Are you avoiding debt? Yo, Vince, I'm in debt. I am in debt. And what I would say is get out of debt as quickly as you can, as strategically as you can. Get out of debt. And if you are not in debt, don't get in it. But most important of all, are you content right now with Jesus Christ? Is Jesus Christ enough? Can you say right now, I am contented? Jesus Christ is enough. He is enough. I know he's enough, but guess what? I forget he's enough. I forget it all the time. I can't stand myself for that. Oh, Lord, I'm so sorry. I thought that was it. I thought that was it. I thought church success was it. I thought that was it. I thought that was it. You know, what's it? Jesus. That's it. He is enough. He is enough. He's more than enough. He's so good. Are you contented in Jesus Christ? Are you just so content to say, Jesus, you're enough. You are enough. Everything else I get in my life is gravy. You're the best. Just say, Jesus Christ, help me find contentment in you. For some of you, maybe the reason why you haven't found contentment in Jesus is because you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus. Here's the good news. He wants a personal relationship with you. Just say, Jesus Christ, I believe that you're God. And I know that I fall short. I sin, I fail. Forgive me. I believe when you shed your blood on the cross, you did it because you love me. When you rose again, you did it to prove that everything you said about yourself was true. Come into my life, be the Lord of my life. Direct me, lead me, guide me, and help me to find contentment in you. Father, help us all to put you first. If we find contentment with you, Lord, our finances will be in good shape. We ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, before I let you go, if you made a faith commitment to Jesus Christ, congratulations. We're here for you, and let us know about it. Financial Peace starts February 2nd. And you can find out more out in the atrium. There's a Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey information table. And you can also go to LCC Info. If you need prayer, come on up front. And I'll be in the atrium. I love you guys. Thanks for braving the elements. It's not that bad out. I'm sorry. We're Rochester. We're not the crybaby somewhere else. By the way, I think there's a special crown in heaven for people that put up with this weather all winter. I mean, it's gotta be. All right, love you guys. Have a great day. Thanks.